Hi. Good morning again, everyone. We are so excited to get into our third and final session for the pre-summit day for Data Over Instinct. So I am Jenny Bristow. I'm the CEO and one of the owners here at Annabelle Analytics and Insights, and I am super excited for the session. So the last session we had Bree talking about Geisinger's evolution to becoming a data-driven marketing organization. Well, really their entire organization's become data-driven, but marketing has really helped drive that transitional shift. We thought it would be really interesting to follow up with a session talking specifically to the people that are boots on the ground. Within Bree's team is Allison. She's a manager of research and analytics at Geisinger. And then one of the tools they've begun using recently is Datarama, which is a Salesforce tool. And Mike McMaster, who is the account executive of healthcare and life sciences, is going to be presenting as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Welcome, both of you. Thank you so much for agreeing to participate. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and back out and allow Mike and Allison to take over.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm going to put this into presentation mode and we will get started. Let me know, Jenny, quickly if you can see my screen.
It looks perfect.
Okay, fantastic. So first, just a brief introduction. My name is Mike McMaster. I'm an account executive in our health and life sciences team at Datarama. I've been in the marketing tech and ad technology space for the entirety of my career, over about 10 years. And in that time, I've been in a number of different roles across sales, customer service, strategic partnerships and alliances, working all over the marketing tech industry. I'm thrilled to be joined this morning by our colleague from Geisinger Health. And so I'll let Allison introduce herself today.
Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. If you listened to Bree Pardo's presentation before, she kind of laid the foundation of who I am. I lead the marketing research and analytics team under Bree at Geisinger. We have doubled in size in the last 2 years to 2 people on the team for marketing data. In some of these slides, I'll go through our transformation and where we started and where we are now, and Datarama, how Datarama helped us become more efficient and more agile marketers.
Terrific. Thanks, Allison. So a couple of things to go through. Forward-looking statement. This is legalese that are that we have to show, but what this basically says is to make any purchase decisions on readily available product. Everything that we're going to be talking about and sharing today as a part of Geisinger's story is readily available. On what we think marketers can benefit from today in terms of technology. Salesforce is its customers, and we are made up of our communities, and so we're really grateful for all of the contributions that you've made to our success, including spending some time here with us today. It's table stakes to say that this year has been very different. And so the question that all of our customers are facing, and the conversations that I'm having with marketers in the healthcare community all the time now, are about how we navigate our businesses effectively with our customers in uncertain times. And really, that's about you engaging with an agile mindset as a marketer. Customer expectations have shifted as a result of the pandemic. And so the goal of a marketer needs to be to manage efficiency and engagement, whether or not the customer is a member, a patient, a healthcare provider, or whether you're focusing on customer experience. And the way that has changed really is about what the remit of a marketer is in a time of certainty versus a time of uncertainty. When we sat down at the beginning of this year to talk about our strategy for 2020, pre-pandemic, we were talking about marketing in an environment with a good deal of certainty. And with that context, we were focused largely on growth. So healthcare marketers were thinking about patient acquisition, right? They were thinking about how is it that we can grow the business within our communities. Now, people are thinking much differently, right? Marketers had to pivot quickly this year and were put on projects that none of us could have seen coming, right? Every healthcare provider that we work with now has splash pages that they've had to put up about COVID. They are on the front lines of communication in terms of making sure that people know what to do, whether that is how to get a test or whether that is to know if it's appropriate to come in for your annual checkup, or how long can I put a surgery off that was deemed as non-essential, right? These are the kinds of things that marketers now need to make sure that they're communicating to patient communities to make sure that there's trust in the brand and to make sure that people are getting the care that they need. And that's a very different it's a very different goal than growing the business, but the agile communication still requires technology and still requires coordination. So in many ways, the pandemic is pushing us to a reality in terms of being able to do more with less that was already coming before this year. So we did a report earlier this year with a company called Advertiser Perceptions to try to figure out why it is that getting a view of everything that's happening in the business can be so challenging for marketers. And really, we heard three things from our customers. And so this was a report that was cobbled together based on speaking to more than 150 marketers across industries. And the three things that we heard most were, first, that the challenge around real marketing intelligence comes from a lack of a unified view of performance from marketing results. And that really is because data lives in so many different places and necessarily lives in so many different places. Because marketers today need to meet the patient or the member where they are. And there's an expectation that a business is able to communicate across multiple platforms. So from a marketing standpoint, it's a necessity to invest in multiple channels. Because you have to get data out of those channels in order to get a unified view of performance, oftentimes what that means is that it's necessary to do quite a bit of manual work to cobble together these kinds of reports. And so lack of real-time performance insight comes from that need for manual reporting. And Allison can tell you all about that when she shares her story from Geisinger's point of view later in this conversation. And then finally, the lack of alignment and governance has also come out of a new digital world. And I like to share an example with many of my customers that I feel often resonates. The fragmentation of marketing into different channels has become so acute that the expertise within individual channels have become professions in and of themselves. And just as an example, we talk about digital marketing, but they're not all the same thing. If you're hiring somebody because they're an expert in SEO or SEM and they've spent their careers working in search marketing, it's not a fair assumption that that person understands how to build a Twitter audience. That's a very different skill set. And so the fragmentation of responsibility across these different areas of expertise has made it difficult for marketing organizations to align across the results that they all need to drive. So these challenges are more pressing than ever now. Being able to understand how you're maximizing reach and engagement to deliver information in a timely manner, making sure that you're rebooking those appointments that we had to cancel earlier this year, understanding which channels are the best to engage with patients when you're trying to get out this critical communication to the community, and being able to use data efficiently to manage the resources that you have internally can also be a challenge. And that's where marketers need a system of record. So typically you see that marketers have data silos and they have team silos. On the data side of the house, you have all these different platforms that we discussed a moment ago that everyone is using to communicate with their patients and their members. But then on the team side, there's also a number of individuals that need to be involved in order to create these reports, from the executives that are doing these reports to the people that are actually executing within the individual channels, to the marketing analytics as well. So Datarama can help marketers to find certainty by creating more efficiency within these individual channels, by giving time back on data preparation. So the manual efforts associated with creating these reports, with creating these analytics, if you use technology to streamline some of that work, you can take time back to focus on analytics and optimization. And then finally, making sure that your stakeholders are aligned to the same set of goals and that those goals ladder down from an executive level. And that's really strategy all of your marketing data. And that starts with creating a system of record for the organization and connecting all of your data sources to one system of truth. Then it's about optimizing performance with AI-based insights. So we can use technology to highlight opportunities in your individual channels by demonstrating where performance is a lagging indicator or leading indicator based on KPIs that you're trying to optimize for. This allows marketers to be agile and innovative with their data and to test things even within individual campaigns without having to wait for a report that comes back from an agency or a report that comes back from an internal team more aligned to the IT side of the house. So really what we're talking about is empowering marketers to make their own decisions using their own data. And I'm thrilled to be able to share the story of the team at Geisinger. So I'm continue to drive the slides, but I'm going to pass most of the responsibilities of delivering this content over to Allison, and looking forward to sharing this story with you.
Thanks, Mike. As I said before, I'm the Research and Analytics Manager for the Marketing Department here at Geisinger. So a little bit about Geisinger. We we're a health system for payer and provider side in Pennsylvania. We have 12 hospitals and over 160 clinics. So we have a lot of marketing going out throughout the state. And we wanted, like any marketers or any analysts, we want to make sure that we track everything so that we can optimize performance and, make the most of our dollar. So in order, I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit, and I'm going to go through basically our measurement strategy transformation. So it was really, we started, I would say back in 2018. I started with Geisinger in 2019, but in 2018, we had Bri Pardo, who spoke in the last session. She would, every week, on top of everything that she was doing already, she would manually pull spend and manually pull leads and calls from the platforms and put it into an Excel spreadsheet. And basically every week, that was a running total. So we weren't seeing any trended data, any historical data. We were just seeing kind of like, if you wanted to compare week to week, you would have to go back through your emails and find the email that she sent the past week in the Excel file. So we had no reconciliation of whether these leads coming in were even actually doing anything. Were they making appointments? Were they even being called by our ops department? Where were they falling through the funnel? We really didn't know that. So this weekly Excel spreadsheet was sent to marketing strategists, and it was just, it was a workbook that had all of our campaigns listed out, had impressions, clicks, leads, all of that stuff, but that's it. There was no context. So moving into 2019, I joined the team in January of 2019. I came from actually, I have a wide variety of background. Most of my career was spent in e-commerce and website management. And then when I went and got my master's degree, I focused in business analytics because I had this drive of, I loved diving into the data and seeing, what was causing sales to spike on this weekend compared to the weekend before, et cetera. So that kind of brought me into the journey of being an analyst. And I worked for an analytics consulting company before I joined Geisinger. So the analytics consulting company that I worked for was actually owned by an ad agency. So I got to dive into all of the ads platform data, all of that stuff. I was responsible for creating dashboards for our clients, et cetera. So fast forward 2019, I joined Geisinger, I joined Bri's team, and we still had we had a lot of work to do. We were still manually pulling spend, manually pulling our calls and our forms data. And then in order to get the next step, the appointment reconciliation, we had to build this data model to make sure that when we put the leads data into our clinical database and run it against a SQL script to get appointments, it had to be in a very particular structure. So all of those calls and forms that we're pulling out now needed to be cleaned in a specific way so that it could give us the results that we need. So that took about 8 to 10 hours per week. Then we had to then load that clean data into our Hadoop platform, our clinical database, and it matched on whether the appointment was after the lead date, and it had to match the appointment had to be within the institute and the service line. So then after we got all of that data and then the appointment output data, we then had to load it into Tableau, which in the previous presentation you saw, that giant clunky Tableau dashboard that was very colorful, had all the colors of the rainbow in it, but still, it was still static. I mean, our strategists still didn't really know what to do with it. So, and it was taking us a lot of time to do it. And because it was taking us so much time, we didn't have a whole lot of bandwidth to then provide insights. And that's really what they need. They don't want to see these static dashboards. They want to be told, okay, well, what does this mean? So in addition to that, we were also missing the comprehensive campaign performance, because we all know that it's not just the ads data, or it's not just AdWords, it's not just Facebook. We have traditional marketing, we have landing pages. We needed to know what was going on in that landing page, because we may be sending a ton of traffic to the landing page, but if nobody is converting into a form lead, we don't know. We didn't know that. We would have to go out and do that search ourselves. So I started in 2019. I went back another year so we can get historical data and see trends. And I was a human database. I compiled about 44,000 rows of data that is now our historical database that's being loaded into Datarama, so we can actually compare what happened a year ago, like if we're going to do the same campaign, it's, is it working? Why didn't it work before? We still needed that historical trends. So now 2020, it's been a year, hasn't it? It's really forced us, COVID has forced us to become more agile and use more digital first tactics, because our average consumer is now being forced into a digital world. COVID has forced us to be more internet savvy and do more research. You get less print ads, you see less billboards because you're not out doing as much as you were before. So our data in 2020, Datarama, I actually, me being a data analyst, I actually did the hours spent before manually cleaning data and pulling data from our APIs and, cleaning some of it. And Datarama is saving us about 70% of our time that was spent before with the manual pulls and the manual cleaning. And while we can't load HIPAA compliant information into Datarama has actually helped us lay the foundation for our naming conventions. And the naming conventions, the way it's been set up is because now it's standard across campaign, I can then take that into an Excel spreadsheet, break it up, and I have all the columns that I need. I don't have to manually copy, paste all of that stuff into the Excel spreadsheet so we can load into the database. And in addition,
if you don't mind, I was just going to ask you to dig in on that for just a moment. I think there may be some folks with us today who probably aren't as close to these kinds of issues as you. And I wonder whether you could just explain in layman's terms why naming conventions are so important for your business.
Sure. So naming conventions, it's been a long road to get us here, and I'm so glad we did it. But forcing we have so many people in there putting work into our project management system. We have so many people putting work, we have different strategists putting work into call rail tracking, into our Facebook platform, our AdWords platform, Pinterest, all of that. And you know what, because there's so many people in the same platforms that I need to extract data from, you have a lot of different nuances of how people name things. Is it neuro or is it neuroscience? All of that stuff. When it gets exported or when it goes into the Datarama through the APIs, if those names are different, even though they're technically the same thing, like neuro and neuroscience is the same thing, Datarama is going to think that it's two separate campaigns, even though it's actually one. So getting these naming conventions to establishing them and forcing it as the Bible, this is what we're doing, it has really helped us streamline and become more efficient. Because then I know that when I extract data from CallRail, or I extract data from Sitecore, extract data from the platform or whatever within Datorama, I know that those campaign names, if they're the same campaign, will be the same thing. That saves me the time. Prior to that, if we didn't have it, I would have to go on instinct. And this whole thing is about data over instinct, right? I would have to go over on instinct of like, I think this campaign is the same as this, even though it's named differently. Then I'd have to take the time to go out to the strategist. I'm like, is this truly the same name or the same campaign? So knowing that everything is in a standard format, I feel safe knowing that this matches that, all of that stuff. That's why naming conventions are so incredibly important. So in addition to the naming conventions, it's now we have the time to do a comprehensive campaign performance view. So we can have the landing page data, we can have keyword analysis, all of that stuff. Before it was just the static dashboard of like, this is how much we spent, these are the leads came in, this is the appointments, these are the tactics. That was it. It was pretty much just a digital snapshot of what we were doing. Now we're able to really provide more data, more useful data to tell the story. We can see where people are dropping out of the funnel, et cetera. And we can track real-time performance to goal and budgets. Now, I've got to tell you, this has shocked our strategists. It scared them because we had to put, numbers and goals around everything, and that we had to train them on how to use historical data to do that. But I think this leads to that whole transparency. We want to be transparent about what we're doing, because when we're transparent, that helps us set goals for the future, set realistic goals for the future. So in addition to this, we're also able to optimize performance based on real-time data now. Before we didn't have that. Now our leads and appointments are still on a weekly basis, but now we're able to see keyword performance, landing page performance, how many clicks, how many impressions our ads are getting, how much money we're spending, et cetera. And that's real time because of the out of the box API connectors that Datorama offers. So this is an example of what, I hate to say it, our first version of the Datorama dashboard. This actually, the Datorama, the full implementation was turned over last week, and we are now on like the third version of this. We're kind of rolling this out to our department in phases because we don't want to shock and overwhelm with data. Basically, the first version is going to be a drop-in replacement for what we had before, but layering in more traditional, layering in the traditional dollars and the goals and the budgets, et cetera. The next version is gonna be more comprehensive with the keyword analysis and the landing page performance and some of our organic social aspects that play into the campaign as well. So one of the things I love about Datarama is it's so simple. I was on a meeting and they said, can we see this? 2 seconds later, of course we can. It is a very user intuitive interface.
Uh-oh, Allison might have froze. Let's see if her video and audio comes back on in a moment. The only downside to using Zoom virtually. Let's see.
Well,
Mike, do you want to pick up any of this information?
Sure. So while we're waiting for Allison to rejoin, a couple of thoughts about this. And I think Allison was just touching on this point with regards to how easy it is to configure some of this information. It's not magic, right? Certainly you need to use technology in order to get this kind of visibility for your organization. But the architecture principle that Datarama has and was founded on is this idea of clicks, not code. And I think that's really important within the marketing discipline, because what this enables us to do is to have somebody like Allison with a data background, right? Allison has a master's degree in data, but she isn't necessarily a computer science engineer. You don't have to be in order to own your own data, right? And so this clicks not code ethos that underlies the entire platform gives us the ability to deliver something to our customers that allows them to own their own data without having to write SQL code or HTML or anything else. So all the different visualizations that you see on this iPad here are built via what we call widgets, which are these sort of pre-built things that you can implement onto a page. And then you can grab the data as it is from your data model. So once you've already connected all the data sources to Datarama, the measurements and dimensions that have been connected to Datarama are there for you to grab and to populate from, which is really powerful from a marketing use case perspective. One other thing that struck me as Allison was sharing her story is this idea of phasing. And one of the things that we've been really impressed and struck by in terms of the way that Allison and Bree are rolling this information out to their organization is really the discipline with which they're delivering this information. And you heard Allison mention phasing, right? In many regards, technology is extremely important, but in order for this to be successful, for a project like this to be successful, there also needs to be a mindset shift. The organization needs to understand that data is how to do things. And you need to have everybody sort of on board with this idea that, okay, we are going to be using one single source of truth. If the data is not in this system, then we can't really talk about it, right? Because everybody needs to be aligned along the same data sets. So, and I think Allison's rejoining. I think that that is just really, really smart, the way that Allison and Bree's team is doing this in rolling reports out in a phased fashion, because it gives people the ability and the time to get comfortable with that data and to start to create that mind shift. We always say to our customers that analytics isn't a project, it's a discipline, right? So if you're asking the right questions of your data, the expected outcome should not be we get the answers that we want, then we wash our hands and we're all done, right? Rather, if you're asking the right questions of your data, it's very likely that that those questions are going to beget additional questions, right? So analytics logically builds on itself in that way. Where there's always room for improvement. And the more information that we have, the better the quality of the decisions that we can make with regards to our campaigns or anything else related to marketing. And I see Allison has rejoined. This is a Zoom world, right?
Sorry about that. I live in the middle of nowhere, and it's funny, Bree, the previous presentation, if we're on the meeting, we have the same internet. If we're on a meeting at the same time, we both drop at the same time. I apologize for that, 2020, what can I say? But kind of diving right back in, thanks, Mike, for covering for me. But so like I was saying, we're on like the third version of the dashboard, right, of this dashboard, even though implementation was handed over last week. But we are, as Mike was alluding to, we're rolling it out in phases. So one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to overwhelm non-data folks with data that we don't want them to be like, if they look at this dashboard, they're like, wow, I don't know where I'm looking. It's a training process. And actually this coming Friday, we're rolling out the clinical dashboard with the strategists to kind of tell them, here's where to look. If you see this trending down and this trending up, maybe we need to take a look at, A, B, or C. It really is a process of like training the users on how to read these dashboards and how to interpret some of these results. So the Datarama has truly helped us unlock agile marketing, because now we don't spend all of this time manually pulling and manually cleaning data. We are now able to spend more of that time optimizing and trying to meet the needs of our consumer as soon as possible. So the first, actually before implementation was turned over to us by the Datorama team, we launched our Medicare Advantage executive dashboard that is now being shared through leadership of the system. AP is our annual enrollment period. So Medicare Advantage, you get 3 months out of the year for your sales season. So you got to make that count. Now this dashboard, the Medicare Advantage dashboard, before we would get a weekly snapshot of how many leads we're getting and where they're coming from, but that's it. We had no closed loop reconciliation. So we didn't know how many members were actually converting from those leads until January, after the campaign was over. So now that we have these daily data updates to show campaign performance, we can now spend the time of doing that member reconciliation, because really that's what we want. We don't want 1 million leads and only 10% convert. We would rather have 1,000 leads and like 80% convert. I didn't do the math there, so the numbers could have been wrong, but you get the gist. So now we have this executive dashboard showing the leads and member conversion with tactic. We have the budget. We had everything laid out in one dashboard so that leadership could see. And we rolled it out with just the marketing stuff. Well, now it's evolved that everybody wants to put their stuff in there. Our call center wants to put their stuff. Sales wants their data reflected in this dashboard. So this dashboard has actually evolved to be the one-stop shop for how our entire Medicare Advantage performance is going throughout the sales season. And the cool thing about that is that now we have this leadership transparency. Now they can see what's happening, when it's happening, rather than after the fact and total numbers. So now they can set realistic expectations for next year and set realistic goals. We would have stretch goals. But prior to that, we didn't have a whole lot of transparency into the seasonality of the campaign. We just had total numbers, and then the blame game if something didn't happen. Now you can see everything that's going on in a one-stop shop.
And Allison, if I could just make a comment about that. I was sharing some thoughts on your presentation when the Zoom cut out for a minute, and I just want to compliment you and your team again on the way that you're doing this. We have been so impressed by the approach that you and Bree have taken to rolling out marketing analytics as a discipline, really more than just a solution. And I think I just wanted to share quickly that, one of the things that I've seen in my career at Datarama over more than 4 years, and in my career in enterprise software and the marketing technology space in general, is boil the ocean strategies make things really difficult, right? And Gartner shared in a report that they created in 2018 that greater than 70% of analytics projects that are taken on internally are doomed for failure. And I think in my career, what I've seen in situations where a project isn't as successful, it's those boil the ocean strategies that tend to get people into trouble. And so what you're talking about in terms of phasing the projects and getting something stood up, and then once you're successful, people start coming to you, right? And they want additional things included in the dashboards. They want their data included in the solution, and it gives you so much control over how to phase the project. So I just wanted to call that out and compliment you and your team again for the way that you've managed this project.
Yeah, so kind of we want to create this one source of truth because, you know, anywhere, especially in healthcare, you have a definition of what a new patient is, or what a new member is, or what a conversion is. That definition is different across all departments. So finance could have a different definition of an active patient. They may define it as 2 years. We define it as 1 year. So it's really getting all of this data into one dashboard, all of, you know, the different pieces of one campaign into a dashboard that leadership can see. Everyone is confident that we're showing the same numbers to the same people. Before, we would have sales reporting something, especially in the Medicare Advantage. Last year, we would have sales reporting some numbers and marketing reporting some numbers, which we're trying to say the same thing, but we're defining that metric differently. So getting to this one source of truth is huge for the entire system, not just the marketing department. In the next slide, Mike, we'll show you, this is, like I said, this is the first version, well, the second version of that executive dashboard that is being shared to leadership. This has now evolved to, you know, more leveled approach and a blocked approach of like everything that touches on this campaign. And then the next slide just shows a screenshot. It's the lower part of the dashboard. That's our call center activity. Patient conversion is huge, so we wanted to show that there. So all of this, we have a ton of data sources feeding this dashboard, but this is really going to help us at the end of the campaign to really take a step back. We have all the data now in a format that we need it. So we can see what worked, what didn't, so we can optimize for next year, or we can optimize for next week because now we have these daily updates. So I think that's all we have, and I hope there's some questions that we can answer.
I wanted to just
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to make one more comment, and again, compliment the Geisinger team if I could. And I'm going to go back a slide to do so, if I can. Maybe I can't go back a slide. Oh, here we go. I think one of the things that's really cool about what your team have done here is that this is an extremely attractive dashboard. And I always talk about this with my customers because Excel spreadsheets equal Sunday scaries, right? People don't want to open up Excel spreadsheets. And taking care to make this attractive, to make it branded, to have the color scheme be on brand with the organization, to have it be clean, to have it be easy to read. All of that is so important because data can only get you so far. You also need people to log in and to actually use the data, and putting this together in a way that is as attractive as this is makes a huge impact on the usability of the information. So I just wanted to call that out quickly.
I will second that. Good job,
Yeah,
Allison.
so I still get people sending me data in a Word document. So if they're sending me data in a Word document, they're not going to open an Excel spreadsheet. And those are the people that need to be looking at the data. So if you can present it in a clear, concise, pretty picture, you know, sunsets and rainbows, they're going to look.
I love it. That's a great point. So One of the first questions is, will Datarama be HIPAA compliant soonish? I thought both Tableau and Datarama are owned by Salesforce. Why just Tableau be HIPAA compliant? Is that a hurdle for Allison? So it sounds like Mike should answer the first part of what are the plans for trying to become HIPAA compliant, if any, and then we'll talk about any hurdles or issues that presents for you on a day-to-day basis. Allison, next.
Yep. The answer is long and boring and involves a lot of lawyers. But the punchline is Datarama will be included on Salesforce's BAA at some point in 2021. We're hoping very early in the year. Essentially, Datarama is a secure platform, but you have control over what data you bring in there, right? So right now, because Datarama is not on the Salesforce BAA, we call that out to our customers and let them know that it's probably not best to bring in individual patient data. That being said, the tool is primarily used for campaign optimization. So you don't necessarily need a patient name in order to optimize the communications to a cohort that patient belongs to. And the same is true on the payer side of our business with members and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the brief answer from the Datarama side.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just throw in, for anybody who isn't as up to date on HIPAA compliance terminology, BAA stands for Business Associate Agreement. And it's basically something you have to assign at the highest level of the organization, and it gives you certain legal responsibilities in the handling of PHI, and says that you basically know what you're doing and accept responsibility for doing that. So, Allison, you're up.
Yeah. So we wouldn't have to load in any HIPAA compliant information. The only reason that we do the manual pull from our lead sources, Sitecore and CallRail, is that we do that reconciliation process within our clinical database Hadoop. So we need to have the first name, last name of the lead information and the date of birth to load into our clinical database to then get the appointment reconciliation. And then what we do is whenever we load it back into Datarama, we strip that information, and it just sends as you know, how many people converted rather than who converted. So while, you know, we still have that manual task of doing that, it still saved us 70% of time. So my Thursdays or my Fridays were spent 8 to 10 hours a day just manually cleaning data and pulling spend and all of that stuff. So just even while Datarama may not is doing all of that, the stuff that the foundation that they made us put in place, like the naming conventions, saves us time on the manual cleaning and
Sure.
You know, loading into the clinical database, because now we know we have you know, a regimen, everything needs to be in the same format. So knowing our, you know, the strategists putting stuff in the platforms, knowing that it could break something, it scares them. So they make sure that they do that.
I love it. Mike, did you have something to add after I talked about BAA?
I guess the only thing I was going to add is that while we're going through this certification, nothing is actually going to change about the product. So this is really just a certification process. We're not, you know, the platform is already secure. There's no technical changes that are taking place between now and January.
Yeah, that's super helpful to add. Thank you. Next question, Maria wants to know, how real time is the data refreshed in Datarama?
Great question. That is up to you and how you're connecting the data. So our platform can refresh the data as quickly as the API can send the data to Datarama. So in some cases that is hourly. Most customers receive data feeds daily because that's the level of granularity at which they can make decisions about optimization. But if you have a need for more frequent refresh of data, it depends on how that data gets sent to Datarama. And so long as we can get the data to Datarama, we can go faster.
Awesome. Steve wants to know, and it looks like this is a question for Allison, are you tracking cost per lead data yet for your individual campaigns and channels? And if so, what kinds of learnings have you had so far?
Yeah, so we track cost per lead down to the granular level of tactic. So, you know, our Facebook cost per lead, our AdWords cost per lead. We layer in some of our PO work that's in an Excel spreadsheet for our traditional. So we know down by the channel, you know, and by the campaign, obviously. And I gotta say, it's enlightening. It really is enlightening, because prior to Datarama, we were just tracking digital spend and digital cost per lead. So our one campaign is right now it has $3 cost per appointment, $3. And
Yes.
then when we roll these out to the strategists, I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to train them, we got to prepare them, because we layer in that traditional layer, and that's going to go up. And we have to make sure that nobody has a heart attack. So it's truly, you know, it has really, especially on our Medicare Advantage, where we think that one tactic should be doing way better than it is, but then we find out, like, our paid search, and I'm not saying this is how it is right now, but maybe our paid search is performing like $7 per member or something like that. So it really tells us where to put our budget. And having that at a daily basis or a weekly basis, we can shift dollars around. We can shift dollars. We can move it to paid search next week, find out it's not doing anything, move it back to paid social. You know, the traditional dollars, you don't really have a whole lot of leeway there. But when you go into a 6-month campaign and you pay for a print ad for 2 months and it's not working, we know that it's not working, so we cannot do it the next 2 months. So, you know, looking at it, especially not so much the campaign, because different campaigns for different institutes or different, like our surgery campaigns are going to be a lot different than our, you know, our pediatrics campaigns or women's and children. But when you look at it from a channel basis, it is really, you know where to put your money, really. And you know how to do it. You know that you can change it next week.
Yeah, and we have a follow-up question to that, actually. So Steve says, with that information, how do you track and attribute the appropriate patient revenue from your lead conversions? And do you have a predefined list of ICD 9/10 and CPT codes for each service line campaign? We're getting super specific.
Yep. So, you know, 2 years ago, we couldn't even imagine calculating actual ROI. And if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have probably ran out of the room, because I wouldn't even know where to start. But now with Datorama, we also partnered with Health Grades, which, you know, helped us define the actual ROI of what patients coming in through what service line. We haven't rolled out the ROI dashboard or an ROI component of our dashboard yet, but now we're able to actually do that and uncover the actual ROI that we are bringing in as a marketing department to our health system.
I think I'd like to add as well, for anybody on the phone who isn't necessarily acquisition focused, that acquisition isn't the only target of a marketing campaign, particularly this year. And if you think about providers or payors or even pharma and life sciences, it's about experience for the person on the receiving end of your brand. And we've sort of been trained to have certain expectations by the travel and hospitality industries, right? If you can imagine flying again, I know some people are. I haven't been on a plane in quite some time, but in a normal year, I'm on a plane every week, and you have an expectation that the morning that you're going to fly, you're going to get a text message from Delta reminding you to check in, right? And then when you get into the app, you expect that the app knows who you are and knows what flight you're checking into. It's going to deliver you some information about, you know, do you need help finding your gate inside of the terminal, all that kind of stuff, right? And the same expectations are now coming to healthcare. So some of the things that customers are doing inside of Datarama aren't focused on acquisition at all. They're focused on patient experience. How is it that the communication that we're delivering to a person is impacting our CSAT scores, right? That's a question that you might ask. How are people engaging with follow-up information? How are we doing at getting people to come back for repeat appointments, right? These are the kinds of metrics that matter, not just in an acquisition environment, but also in a loyalty and advocacy environment from a marketing standpoint. And I just wanted to call that out in case there's some folks on the phone that maybe aren't as focused on the acquisition as a channel from a marketing perspective.
That's a great call. Great point, Mike. Patrick asks, this is for Allison again, do you handle all of your paid search buying in-house?
Yes, we do. We consider ourselves an internal agency. So we do all of our marketing campaigns. The only thing that we contract out is some of our traditional like media buys.
Cool. Mike, now a question for you. How else have you seen analytics used to foster stakeholder alignment across teams and leadership? This is a big one.
Boy, I would say it's a constant across all of my customers, right? If you're interested in a solution like Datarama, your prior is we don't have something like that, right? We don't have the ability to socialize information in a way that we want to within the organization. So, you know, this is not a tool that is typically used by one person in the organization, right? Like, I'll give you an example. When we go into customers that don't have a solution that brings data together from multiple platforms, often we'll be introduced to this is our Google Analytics guy, right? And that's the person that does all of the Google Analytics. And the assumption there, or at least the implication there, is that's the only person that's logging into that platform. And part of what customers want to do is break away from that model and democratize the data in a way that allows more people to access it and to use it. And using a tool like Datarama to connect the Google Analytics data to everything else that everyone's looking at gives you the ability to democratize the data within your organization. From a purely technical standpoint, we also see customers creating multiple different cuts or views of the data inside of their workspaces on different dashboards because everybody needs data, but not everybody needs the same data. And that person who is living inside of Google Analytics probably needs some really granular insights in order to do their job. The executive who's logging in may not even understand all of the things that that person needs to see, right? But they need higher level insights. And so presenting the data in a way that it impacts the person who needs to see it is incredibly important. And having different cuts of the same data that are coming out of the same underlying data architecture and data model can be really empowering for different people in the organization.
Yeah, so one of the things that we realized when we rolled out with Datorama is we had one dashboard for everybody. And now we're taking the approach that we're actually having 3 levels of dashboards for one is operational, that's going to do the keyword analysis. The next one is strategic. So that's going to be our campaign strategist. They want to see cost per lead by tactic, et cetera. And then the next level higher up is the executive dashboard, where they don't care how many impressions that we had. They just wanted to see how many appointments we got and how much money we spent doing it. So I really, going through the whole implementation process and reaching out to the different stakeholders and seeing what they wanted to see and what their questions were has been eye-opening. And we now know that, there needs to be 3 levels of reporting. And prior to that, we weren't able to do that because it was just a team of 2. Now that we have Datorama, we can easily just duplicate dashboards and delete what we don't want or add what we do.
That's an awesome point. And kind of on that point, Allison, what are some of the most impactful things you and your team have been able to do at the time you've saved from the manual data management processes?
Now we can actually do what we were hired to do and provide insights.
Yes.
So now we can, it's funny, 2021 is, the end of 2020 and then 2021 is going to be the year of efficiency and automation for us. So now
Love
that
it.
we have these, direct feeds from the APIs, and we have a process in place for how we do the reconciliation and load it back into the platform, now we're actually able to take a step back in addition to the insights that we're providing, but we can also take a step back and look at it. How can we make this better? How can we make this more efficient? So, when I was setting my FY21 goals, one of it was automation. And I was scared. I'm like, I have no idea how we're going to do this. But now I'm ready to tackle it. And because we have Datarama, I have the time and the foundation to go ahead and start that process.
Yeah. One question kind of feeding off that, since 2020 really has changed for everyone. Let's talk specifically about COVID just for one hot second. Are you guys investing in any channels and tactics to reach customers since COVID started? I know across the board, we have seen some huge shifts in how healthcare systems have been spending their marketing budget. What are you guys doing right now?
You know what, with the new leadership that came in back in 2018, we have been a very digital first culture, which is revolutionary in healthcare. Especially a lot of our, institute partners, they still want the billboards, they still want the print, but we push digital first because we know that we're able to optimize it quicker and easier than a traditional placement. But another thing that really came out of COVID is within our department, we had to really pull together and unify on how we were addressing this pandemic. So we were leveraging tools that we wouldn't, our toolkit expanded. So now, before COVID, our marketing, like our toolkit would be paid search, paid social, a print advertisement. Now we expanded it because we know what our department can do. So we expanded it to internal communications because our employees are still our patients. We expanded it into earned media. We're leveraging organic social. We're leveraging our brilliant organic content that we have that now we can send, instead of building a brand new landing page for a campaign, well, hey, we have something on our content hubs. Let's drive traffic there. Maybe not spend so much money on that. So it's really COVID has really helped us expand our toolkit and really work as a team, as a whole. We're sharing data, because within our marketing communications department, we actually have like 4 teams. It's internal communications, we have digital marketing or digital engagement, we have our clinical strategists, and our PR people. Now we all work as one, driving the same goal, which was what we were doing now, but it was in silos. So COVID has kind of like uncovered and really brought us together.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a beautiful outcome. Mike, last question of this session is going to go to you, and it's a good one. So what's the difference between a marketing intelligence platform and business intelligence?
It's a great question. Really, it's the marketing specificity in all aspects of the solution. So marketing data is not huge as far as data goes, right? Hospitals produce terabytes and terabytes of information every day. The challenge with marketing data is not that there's a ton of it, it's that it's extremely complex and highly structured. And so what Datorama helps to do is connect that data and leverages pre-built business intelligence or business logic to be able to connect those marketing data sources together. It also uses artificial intelligence to help marketers to highlight optimization opportunities within their data. And as we talked about before, the visualization component of the tool is really easy for anybody to be able to use, which allows the marketing organization to have autonomy over their own data without relying on any external resources or a partnership with an IT organization. So really, it's the ability to easily connect your marketing data across a single source of truth, and then be able to use that data in a proactive fashion within the marketing discipline.
Awesome. That was a great and very concise summary. I appreciate it. There's a lot of confusion between the two, so thank you. And with that, I just want to do a huge thanks to both Allison and Mike. Thank you both so much. I know it's really fun seeing all of the questions come in to know that these are areas that people are really struggling with within their own organizations. So I know you guys have probably answered a lot of questions and then raised a lot of questions that people are going to go back to their own teams later today and over the next coming weeks to be able to try to get some things accomplished. For everyone else, we are going to get started again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central for our full day summit. I went ahead and put the Zoom link for tomorrow. It's a different one in the chat, so you can go ahead and save that for tomorrow. You also should have it in your inbox if you have registered. But if not, go ahead and save that. We have a full day lined up with a lot of amazing speakers from Lucky Orange, CallRail, and then Facebook. Insights, a lot of really great content for tomorrow again. So thank you, Mike and Allison. Really appreciate your time, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.